Gangstabet is Icon's next generation NFT collectibles of 5,555 gangsters and detectives, with changeable names and stats. Holders of Gangstabet NFTs receive daily distributions of GBet tokens. GBet can be used to upgrade their NFT skills and stats. The supply of GBet will decrease over time and will stop after 9 years. Holding Gangstabet NFTs will have opportunities for future airdrops and will give you access to Gangstabet's highly anticipated metaverse. Learn more at gangstabet.io. Shout out to our sponsors at IconBet. Open source, decentralized gaming, no deposits, play straight from your wallet. IconBet, made by the players, for the players. Eye on Icon is proudly supported by Icon Nation and the Icon community.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Eye on Icon. And with me, as always, is Iconographer. How are you today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Good. He's lying, everyone. You know, he's just had to put up with my system issues for the last half hour. So that's quite the greeting. Well done, Iconographer.
Oh yeah. Well, it wasn't. You know, I always expect a little bit of technical difficulty, so it's always baked in to a certain extent. And we've had a string of non-technical difficulties for a while, so I guess we were due.
Yeah, true. It was I've changed computers and I'm trying to get everything up and running, and obviously everything needs new permissions, which I didn't anticipate. But luckily it happened with you, not while we were, recording a guest who's come on the show for the first time. But anyway, okay, so big week, lots been happening. You can feel the markets. Let's talk about the markets. It's been a bit of doom and gloom state at the moment. You can really feel at this point when it's doom and gloom, everyone starts coming out. No one's doing anything, that kind of talk. So let's go. Let's look at the markets. What are we thinking? Icon, ICX, $1.03.
Well, right now it just seems like it's following Bitcoin. I mean, I think there's some. It seemed like for a while there, it was kind of seen as 42K. 42K was support, and then it fell below, and then it became resistance. So I think that's kind of what I was seeing. I could be wrong on that, and that's what people were kind of saying. So again, I'm not a TA person. I more just kind of follow others and kind of aggregate what I've been seeing. So the fact that we've got a couple green candles in a row here. I was a little nervous that, there was the inflation numbers today, 3 months ago, is, the inflation numbers came out and they were high, and that's what shot Bitcoin to 69K. And then the next month they were also high, but then it crashed, or at least it got sent down. So this time it was kind of like, all right, what's it going to do? And it looks like, it didn't really go crazy. It's up probably, I don't know, $1,000 since, since like last night or this morning. So it's certainly trending in the right direction. There seems to be, among the people I follow on Twitter, there seems to be some optimism that we're kind of the ship has turned around and hopefully moving in the right direction. Obviously, once Bitcoin gets going and the market moves in the right direction, that's when ICX starts to pick up its momentum. It doesn't correlate 1-to-1 necessarily. So it usually lags a little bit. But hopefully the whole market's turning around, which obviously is good for ICX. And as we get, closer to BTP launch and other good stuff happening, there might be some additional hype that can help get some more momentum behind Icon.
Iconograph, I missed. So what the inflation numbers, are they out? Is it bad? Is it good?
It was 7%, which is, it's the highest. It's not always apples to apples, but basically the highest it's been since 1982. So,
So are they talking about? Because I guess the fear is if they start pulling up rates and stuff, right? That is exactly. Is the narrative.
So, but for this, and granted, the people always try to say, oh, the markets think this, the markets, are reacting in this way, and sometimes it's coincidental. This time it was like not, the markets were everything was a little bit green, but nothing. Could have just been that. It could have just been green on its own. I'm not a financial expert by any means, but that was the thing I was watching this morning, and seems to have created, it did trigger some market activity to a certain extent in the green direction. So that was certainly
Okay.
nice to see, and hopefully it kind of kicks off a little bit of momentum
So,
that can stick around for a little while.
so with that news, though, Iconographer, did they come back and so is Powell on this bandwagon where they needs to curb inflation, or because I think one of the stats I wrote is the job rate is dropping, the jobs available as an unemployment is dropping. So that was also one of the reasons they were looking at and going, well, if inflation's at its highest and job rates are dropping, more people have work. Maybe it's time we start tightening up. And that's the narrative, right? If they tighten up inflation, well, then Bitcoin will go the other way, which it shouldn't technically, but this is how it's reacted every time.
Yeah, I mean, it's also this is all short-term variations too. It's like, they said this on Wednesday, so on Thursday the market did Y.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean necessarily that, in a few months when they actually do start raising rates, it's not like, now that the news is full, to a certain extent, we kind of know that there's going to be rate hikes. We don't know exactly how much, we don't know exactly when, but there seems to be a general sense that this year is going to have like 2 to 3. So the news, now that you could say the news is baked in, right? So when they actually raise rates, it's like the markets have already theoretically incorporated that news. So, it's that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. Well, look, okay, so from an on-chainers perspective, I can see like Will and all of them, even though he said he was waiting for a decision, a lot of them, 53K, you can see a few of them have kind of, when it's hit this, gone, you know what, we're starting to buy. And this isn't financial advice. That's what they're doing. So, yeah, on-chainers are still feeling very bullish. They're expecting... because obviously now the shorts are piling up, right? So they're like, okay, well, we got ample support. There's also this cycle. Look, I was in the last cycle, but I was a noob. I still consider myself a noob, but I was a huge noob. And this idea, I thought it was always going up. And back then, I was like, I could hear investors, corporate investors, oh yeah, this is it. It's only going sky. It's only going up one direction. Later realized how wrong I was, and also, really the what was I saying? The on-chainers, not on-chainers. I lost my train of thought. Iconographer. I was talking about. Well, anyway, we'll come back to it. It only. Oh, that's right. Market only go up. That's not happening this time. Last time there was no. People weren't investing. In fact, banks and everything were completely against it. This cycle we do. We have Michael Slater. What I think his average buy-in price now is 25,000, 25 to 30,000 BTC, and he owns like almost 1% of the supply. MicroStrategy, not him. But so it's a bit of a different market, and you see a lot of that happening. I think I pitched this to you the last time. I read this tweet, and I've got the graph up at the moment. And our last high in April for Bitcoin was it was around that 64,000, and then we dropped all the way down to 29,000. Now then we climbed all the way back up to 69,000. And one of the theories was, what if that original 64,000 was the end of the bull market, and this 69,000 was actually a bear market high? Which is interesting. And now we're correcting again, not TA experts, but although I did see some news.
There is a chart. I just sent you in our private chat. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a chart floating around called dormancy flow, and so this is one of those on-chain. And I can't remember. I saw this what exactly it was in another tweet, but I can't see it. Basically, it's an indicator utilizing some on-chain and I think off-chain data. Basically, there's in 6 times in the history of Bitcoin we've hit this little zone here, this little green zone. And so we're now on the 6th time. The previous 5 times, each time it was ultimately a buy signal. So obviously, the initial one in 2012, then in 2015, where it went from there, basically all the way up till the 2017 market peak. Then again in 2019 at the bottom, where it would eventually hit another peak. down again in 2020, and then up, and then down, and then up, and then so that's one piece of data, but certainly the fact that it's only happened this many times and it's always been a good indicator of a buy, that's a nice little bit of encouraging news too. So again, there's millions of ways you can pull out data, but that was one that I saw floating around. I think Will Clement initially mentioned it.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I saw this, forgot about it.
It's Bitcoin's market cap compared to the USD value of annualized destruction. So essentially, according to Will, it essentially compares price to spending behavior. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah. Again, not financial advice, but it's interesting.
Right.
It's interesting to get a very rounded take. I know in the past I just went full blown on chain. So anything they said, I was like, oh yeah. But one thing again, I always realize on chainers seem to be correct, but with a delay. So if they're calling this is the bounce, expect it in 3 weeks. That's the logic I use. And now they've been calling 43, and we've been lingering in that 43 to 40. So we're probably getting close if it's going to go in the right way. Okay, I think that's enough about markets. Shall we push on to the first topic we had, which is the Medium post. Look, originally it was the Medium post around BTP, but what I've actually done is I've just pulled up Iconographer, the Medium page itself, and just thought there's been a ton of content there, so I just wanted to talk through it. But yeah, so look, I think what's interesting, if you hadn't noticed, if you go to the Medium page, now it's been sectioned. So, traditionally any news that dropped, and you can see the great BTP article that dropped, the dev update, the snow news, ice snow, everything's there. But now at the top, there's a bit of a learn section, and a whole ton of content has been dropped in there, specifically designed around, if there's some new people coming in to explore what Icon is. Traditionally, we just haven't had a lot of information out there, or it was outdated, just irrelevant,
or spread out all over the place.
Bingo. So it's good to see the foundation is kind of stepping it up to centralize, even though in our industry we believe in decentralization, but centralize that information to make it easy for people to find. So yeah, your thoughts, Iconographer?
It just definitely looks. I mean, adding this with all the new graphic kind of branding that we've picked up over the last few weeks, I guess, or maybe even months with the new marketing team. So it looks a lot more clean now, a lot more organized, and it can definitely be a helpful resource. If there's someone who pings you saying, "Hey, I want to learn more about Icon," this is a more there's obviously the Icon website, which is more kind of bigger picture. Whereas if they really want to kind of dive in a little bit more, this is a good well organized spot for that. And obviously as we kind of alluded to, we have the the fairly lengthy BTP article. It's kind of like that over time, the foundation's put out little tidbits on BTP, a little article here and there. Whereas this is like a really more in-depth, broader kind of just all the information that's been put out just on BTP alone. It's kind of aggregated all into one article. So if someone wants to, it's a very good, like if someone's only first time hearing about BTP, and it's kind of like, well, what is that? Why does it matter? This is a good article to send them. It probably takes, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes to read, depending on your reading speed. But I think by the time you're done with it, you should have a pretty good, Medium says 11 minutes. So you should have a pretty good overview of BTP, how it works, how it'll integrate, all that other good stuff. And so it's certainly a good resource for existing Iconists and prospective Iconists as well.
Yeah, look, I actually have it open. I put out a tweet that said, regardless of what chain you're aligned to, you should read this because it's just really well written and detailed as well. One thing you saw me doing, I've given it my 50 claps. Iconographer, have you given 50 claps to it?
Not yet. It's on my list.
Well, come on, get there, man. We need
Maybe
this.
I'm not open. I'll do it. I'll do it right now.
Excellent. So, and you probably saw a tweet around this, and it's interesting. Personally, I've been learning a lot more about this stuff, how it works, how it gets noticed, and if we see people constantly, and I'm going to go on a bit of a rant, marketing. In everyone's eyes, it's so different. Like the team can be plugging away and it being perceived as nothing's being done. But there is actually work being done. But as community members, when stuff like this gets released, you couldn't imagine the amount of time and effort that goes into getting details and concise information. So when it gets published, to do our part, if everyone goes in, like if we get 300 listeners that dish out 50 claps each, I don't know the math on that. It's already ridiculous.
15,000.
There we go. You get that kind of stuff. These articles then get sent to people who get their emails, who've signed up, and BTP starts trending. More eyes get on it. It is literally free advertising. So, yeah, this is why we've seen the foundation. We saw a bit of I enjoyed that. A lot of the tweets, retweeting people clapping. The only thing I was hoping for is I'm like, oh God, I hope they're going into Medium and actually clapping, not just retweeting claps. But yeah, look, apart from that, great article. And overall, though, just a ton of new information on there. And what I found interesting on OpenGraph as well, if you scroll down, you can really see the uptick. So in October, we had one article. March, actually, maybe it's not accurate because it's in sections, but you can see from December, they've started to ramp up the amount of content coming out. Could this be a sign? Is there a reason why? I mean, obviously there's a reason why, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. Look, so if you haven't, dive in, really go in there. And you know what? Check out the Learn section and the community, give feedback in Discord, jump in there. Everyone's listening. What I'm actually quite impressed about with the Discord is so many support channels now and feedback loops. I love the area where there's an actual spreadsheet where everyone's listed questions and they've taken back to the team and come back with answers. There's a lot of good stuff happening. So if you weren't aware, get in there and find out. Okay, enough ranting. Next up, what do we got? Ooh, CPS. I love this.
Yep. So we got 6 different projects approved, which I think is this all? Well, so we got 6 different projects approved, almost 200 grand and BNUSD allocated, 100% PREP voting participation. I think those are all-time highs as far as CPS is concerned. So both in terms of number, dollar amount, and participation. So certainly nice to see. I don't think we're going to spend time on going through each and every project, but I think hopefully you were kind of keeping an eye on what's been coming through. A couple cool ones did. I guess the main one, the most prominent one, both in terms of kind of future use cases and things like that, would be, and the most awareness is Convexus, which would be yet another DeFi protocol for the Icon blockchain. I don't know do you want to kind of walk through that one right now?
Yeah, look, I actually have that article. Here we go. So they released a great article. Encourage everyone to read it. Look, put simply, it is another AMM. It's basically Uniswap 3. Yeah. So straight away, everyone's minds are, oh, but we have balance. And I go to that. I never did. But the only reason I have that default mindset is because our ecosystem is small. I think once we get bigger, it's irrelevant. You will have multiple. You can't stop AMMs. They're the default easiest thing to deploy on a chain. But what's cool about this is it's geared to it. So they use terms like concentrated liquidity and things like that. So traditionally in balance, for example, you add your LP and whatever happens, you suffer, the price goes up 200%, then you start suffering that IL on either side, impermanent loss. What Uniswap 3 did was in update where it included for the user to be able to put in liquidity, in concentrated liquidity to certain points, so they can go, yep, I want it from this percent to this percent. Post this, I'm not interested. So and tweak based on that, then they could maximize the money they made without suffering IL, as long as that trading happened within that range. And so part of that would be that they could readjust if prices mooned, et cetera, et cetera. So it gave you as an LP provider a lot more control. So I think I'll put that in a nutshell. That's the key for focus. There's all this other stuff that's being built into it, flash swaps, which is pretty cool. The other part of it, and this is where I start to, if I haven't had a side conversation, but what they're doing is essentially merging all your AMMs. So take you got balance that gives a flat rate of 0.30 per trade. You've got curve, which is equality, but essentially they are building this into this AMM as well. So you can literally trade identical stablecoin to stablecoin at the rates you would get for curve without losing, an equality in theory. That's exactly what this will do. And then on top of that, flash swap. So this is kind of cool. So we'll see a lot of innovation happen with this feature where what is it? You can just swap one for another and replace it with liquidity, things like that. So there'll be cool things that get built off it. So the key difference, though, here with this it incorporates everything. We've seen this launch on Luna as well, Astroport. So all the different AMMs and Astroports come out with this, where it incorporates all three of these AMM styles into one. So then the user can pick how they want to add their liquidity. The tokenomics, governance token, and that's where the big differentiator between balance will be is, balance of the 0.30%, half of that goes back to balance stakers. I don't, from initial scan through, this hasn't been incorporated as one of the CXS tokens utility. It could get voted in later, who knows, but that is not the goal of the CXS token. Yeah, I think that's all. I'll leave it there. Oakengrapher, do you have anything to add?
I think I've seen this pop up where we say, why we already have DeFi protocols. Why do we need more? We already have an AMM. Why do we need another one? Are they going to compete with each other? And I think that's a fair thing to point out. I would say that, in terms of, good, get the claps in there.
Yeah.
In terms of, bigger picture stuff, like, first of all, there's all sorts of DeFi protocols that exist on Ethereum. I think we can't even count them, and it's not like they all eat, they all kind of make each other better, both in terms of, it forces each one to innovate a little bit more, but also they each kind of specialize in different things, right? Not everyone necessarily wants, there isn't some perfect use case that every user is, perfectly in love with. Some users are trying to achieve different ends, different yields, different goals and things like that. Also, too, it creates, they can kind of leverage off each other. The most basic thing is, like, it creates a better, price, reflection of price, because there's, potentially better, there's arbitrage, and there's potentially more liquidity as well. So just being able to, creates opportunity for arbitrage traders to make profit between the two, but also, and as a result of that, you get much more, stable prices and more accurate prices as well. So that's just one example of they talk about the DeFi Legos, where all the pieces kind of fit together and kind of make something greater than the sum of their parts. And so this is kind of what this would seek to do.
Agree. And you know what, Oakengrapher, now, I kid you not, I've been saying this for ages. The next step, DEX aggregator. Like, this needs to happen. Given now we have this, once equality and balance is on the plate, like, forget users going and looking for the best rate. You just need something sitting at the top. And may I remind everyone, this is why 1inch is so big today, is all they did was built an aggregator that literally split. If I wanted to, say, trade 10,000 ICX, that would be the day. And instead of going to each thing, I put it in 1inch. It would split the trades to make sure I did not have. I would maximize the least amount of slippage based on each protocol's AMM's liquidity they had, and I got the best rate. Like, so there's. It may fragment liquidity in the initial phases, but it only creates opportunity in the long run. So, and I'm quite excited about this team overall. Protocol 7, they've worked. I know I messaged Robbie. I was like, hey, really happy to see this level of quality coming through to CPS, and his response to me was, we're only getting started. We are keen to give Icon some of the leading dApps across DeFi, bring it to Icon. So we have a driven team of qualified people. Now they've got 2 projects in their plates. They're turning them around quite quickly, I think, for the level of the type of protocols these are. So I'm really excited to see what they bring, especially as we know they're working on Karma DAO, and I'm very excited about that one because we all know what it is, but they're going about it in reverse, setting up a protocol on liquidity, and you can see how it will complement even this next one that they're building. And then they'll create a reverse reserve currency, which I'm excited to be part of. I'm all about DeFi 2.0. Cool. The other thing I can graph for, look, there was a lot of other ones. I wanted to quickly remind, we saw IconBet, which is good, and we expect more of that now. They aren't. IconBet doesn't have a treasury or anything. The goal is their platform that encourages devs to come and build their games on, and those devs are more than welcome to go to CPS to get funding. I mean, it was $5,000. Honestly, it's a no-brainer. Then there was a few others. Look, the only thing I will say is there was a lot of proposals. If you are an active voter, make sure you're checking in on your P-reps that have asked for a substantial amount of money to build things. And they're doing it. Like, it's one thing to ask, and it's the other thing to actually be delivering. So the Iconist was another one. So we had 6 months, and so now they've got and secured another 6 months of funding. So that's good. They've been consistent with their articles and putting out content. So we know that's going to at least happen for another 6 months. But the one thing I can graph that I found interesting, and did you notice this time the proposals just flowed? And why do you think that was? There was a big treasury. All of a sudden, what did I say? When there is money, P-reps will, people who are voting and things will to pass through the ranks a lot quicker. But when you're looking at like $50,000 in CPS, even a project that makes the most sense will be scrutinized at every level because everyone's just saying, oh my God, we've only got 50 grand left. But this time with close to 700,000 sitting in there, everything got the tick. Nothing got rejected.
Yep.
Okay. What's next?
Let's so I guess a little bit of balanced news. We got you can now add anyone. We're at the point now where anyone can create their own liquidity pool. So if you have, say, I guess this will be an example. Someone created a TAP and SICX pool on their own. So all you have to do is hop on a balanced. You can say create liquidity, and then you can at the top you can type in a. The best way I've seen to do it is to type in the contract for the token. And then you can be the one to create that pool if you're the one who deposits the initial liquidity, and then you get, they're obviously not, unless there's a vote by the community, they're not going to be incentivized with BALN, but you will get a portion of the trading fees from that. So this is very similar to how it works on like PancakeSwap or SushiSwap or Uniswap, where anyone can go and create a liquidity pool if they have the initial liquidity to do it. The upside of this is it just creates, we don't have to sit around and wait for the devs to build it or whatever. As soon as a token exists, someone can, and if someone's willing to create a liquidity pool for it, we can have an ability to trade that token, which is nice. The downside is it does open the gates a little bit to, someone can kind of create a fake token. And then people are trading what is essentially, kind of an imposter token. So if you are going to be trading some of these pools, be sure to make sure it's, the correct token address and things like that. And so we did, like I said, a TAP pool popped up. There's a Fin, for the Optimus, which we'll talk about a little bit. There's a Fin pool. Neither of them really have much liquidity. So if you try to trade like 5 ICX worth, it'll create like 20% slippage. So that's no fun. I think it was more, they got generated more kind of people just wanted to try a new feature for the most part. But nonetheless, very cool to see, a nice development, and hopefully we'll see more use case of that with, we just need a situation where there's someone or a team or whatever it is to put up a bit more liquidity. And like I said, there is a TAP SICX pool. So now if you have TAP, the problem with TAP is if you hold it, you get dividends from it. I guess if you're staking it, that's kind of the whole reason to own it. So there's less incentive. There's almost like negative incentive to put it into the pool. So that's kind of an issue. But other than that, now if you want to go do that, you have that opportunity, as well as any other token that's sitting on Icon.
So it's awesome. This should have been one of the features at the start. That's the whole point of an AMM. You can actually go and list. As you were talking, Iconographer, I quickly loaded up the tracker to show everyone. So a general rule that I use to make sure I don't get it stuck with a fake token is I will go to the tracker first. I will find the token on the tracker. Now, remember, fake tokens will come up on the tracker, so you need to make sure you look through. It has a lot of transactions, that it matches the supply, which you can see over here. I've loaded up the IAM token, and I've clicked on it. And I can see, yep, I've got the IAM. There's a decent amount of addresses holding it. I can see there's constant activity. This tells me, yep, this is the real deal. And then if you go click on the contract, you can copy it, and then you can head on over to balance. And I've got the screenshot up here. Too many tabs. And see, as Iconographer mentioned, typing, so you can copy and paste it. Now, thing to remember, Iconographer said, TAP is on there, IAM is on there. They are, but when you go to look, they won't be until you add the contract address. That's when then it will pop up, and straight away when you hit supply liquidity, you'll notice it'll show you how much liquidity is in there. Like for IAM, there was, I think like 40 ICX to IAM, so people haven't gone in and added liquidity. And remember, one of the things people often forget about, and Iconographer, I have verified this now. So we talked about these trading fees, 0.30%, 0.15 gets distributed wherever it needs to. 0.15% of those fees go back to LPs, back into the LPs. So overall, your stash is growing a little bit, subject to IL and all that stuff. But just wanted to clear the air. It won't just pop up. You need to import it, and then you will see it, and then you can do trade if you want. And remember, do check the supply, even if you're not adding liquidity. Just because it's listed, you'll go to trade one, and you'll probably, if there's only like $100 in there, you'll suffer incredible and permanent loss. So keep an eye on that. The last part of this that I wanted to call out was Iconographer's point. So yes, the TAP SICX is, you lose out on staking rewards, but don't forget in what was the Unify? In Unify, the IconBet team created it so that when you supplied TAP, you still got your rewards but it was paired with ICX. So let's hope IconBet kind of do what they did for Unify, so that people who supply TAP on balance still get their dividends, but at the same time they utilize SICX, so then you kind of get the staking rewards on both sides. But I think on that bit of a personal thing, everyone has to come to the party. The SICX on balanced, while using Ohm, you can control the votes. It's not the case with the balance token yet, and it should be. So I think on that note, there could be reluctance for other teams to kind of go, well, why should we be pairing out to SICX when that is not aiding us unless we're securing, other networks tokens to throw the votes our way, which is a point I very much understand. So but overall, sorry, Iconographer, just spitballing here. Great new feature, and hopefully that quick overview showed you how you can add it, because it's great to be across it.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things to point out is there's a BIP-16 is up. Basically, it kind of has like 4 different kind of concepts in it. There's a pretty good post on the governance forums. Basically, the goal is basically to, the title of the post is enhance the borrower experience. So pointing out that borrowing is kind of the main theoretically the kind of the main product that Balance is putting together. And the fact that the more borrowing happens, the better it creates a more stable situation creates for BNUSD. So this would essentially it would up the borrower rewards in terms of the incentivized BALN distribution, increases the loan to value, lowers the origination fees, and looks at doing a stability fund of sorts to help offset some of the rebalancing issues. Obviously, Fez has talked about rebalancing since basically day one. So I don't know if you have any. I haven't dove into this too much this far. There's also talking about tightening the rebalancing range. So I don't know if you had a chance to dive into these, if you have any thoughts necessarily, but certainly a pretty comprehensive proposal here.
Yeah, look, I haven't dived into this actually. I didn't realize I'd looked overview because remember recently we dropped these reward rates and one of the main reasons for borrowers and one of the main reasons that happened was BNUSD couldn't keep the peg because it had no utility. There was nothing else to do with BNUSD. Now, as it should have been, was added to OHM, and internally in our ecosystem, it's getting more of a use case. So all of a sudden, when there's a bit of demand, and then people try to, especially on OHM, where you couldn't earn OHM by supplying it, you could earn it on borrowing, which created this, bit of a loophole demand. And so all of a sudden you find ourselves in this situation where now BNUSD is breaking the peg and becoming more valuable, which is a good thing in my eyes, because you're right, I do hate rebalancing, but for the first time I've been rebalanced the other way. So finally, instead of losing, while it's taking out more for loan, but it has been buying as it's been dropping, versus in the past it's been constantly selling as it's been dropping. So I have in mind this rebalance. I know I said I'd never take a loan, but I've gone back in there. And to your point, Icongrapher, I feel the DEX has been getting a lot of love with balanced. And to me, I think Scott said this right. Balance at its heart is not a BNUSD stablecoin minter. It is an asset minter using decentralized assets. Okay, so I think the team should refocus. Now the DEX is pretty set up, and there's more competition on the way. Let's come back to the drawing board and go, well, the real utility and the real what's the word I'm looking for? The way balance has been designed and implemented is about minting assets. So I'm talking stablecoin. I'm talking. I want to just be able to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a range of different altcoins via balanced using synthetic assets. And that's the goal here. So I shouldn't have to leave and even use BTP for that matter to go out and I want to, don't get me wrong, but I want to just have the option to quickly, like say right now we're trending at 40,000. I'm feeling good. I want to just go into balance and buy barely any BTC that I can afford and hold on to it for 2 months and quickly sell it on balance as well. So these are the possibilities this protocol enables. And I think it's great that the borrowing experience and stuff, all this stuff is being worked on. Hopefully we start to see new collateral assets being added as well. New assets. Absolutely. Collateral and minting of new assets. So two things, new collateral types and minting of assets. Yeah, sorry.
So let's see. Should we talk about Optimus or should we talk about Craft?
I think we should talk about Optimus and then go into Craft. But I think Icongrapher, one of the pages I loaded up, I realized while we're spitballing, I wanted to show, the stats page on Balanced. If everyone's watching, it's quite good. You can see all the pairs. Now, these will only show the pairs that have been officially listed. So if you're kind of actually, let me see. Has it got any of the others? No. So if you're trying to look for, IM or TAP, it won't be there because that would need to get updated. But one thing I did double check. So what's cool is you can see the fees is being earned. So for example, you can see the APY figures. Now, one thing I have cross-checked is these APYs are strictly on the balance distribution, not on the actual trading that happens. And two, for example, the SICX BNUSD, it has had 4 million in liquidity, a volume of 791,000, and $2,000 in fees. So 0.15 goes to the balance takers, and then 0.15 of that gets redistributed back to the LP providers. So cool little page, and just a bit more detail around the stats and the overview for balance. That's enough balance. Let's jump into craft.
You mean Optimus?
Oh yes, Optimus, yes.
So something that I think we were all looking forward to. Optimus had its official launch like 5 days ago. So we've had a few days of opportunity to use it yet. Have you utilized it yet, Fez?
Yeah, I've got a few of the strategies going just to get. Well, obviously, I made that tutorial, so I was trying to make sure I qualified for my airdrop, but I don't know how that exactly works. I haven't noticed anything gotten dropped to me. Maybe there's a claim process.
Yeah, I think there's a process that I think is going to be rolled out at some point in the near future here. But yeah, it's not available as of yet, to my knowledge.
Mm.
So yeah, and I ended up of course. I told myself I wasn't going to fully ape in, and of course I ended up fully aping in onto the liquidity provider side of things.
Yeah.
So
That's a safe one to ape into.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's all obviously every DeFi is risky. I think this one's a little different because you're essentially just routing through existing protocols. So if you're ultimately, feel pretty good about Balanced or Ohm, I guess it's just Balanced at this point. If you feel good about the underlying DeFi protocol, it's a little, I would say less risky because you're still ultimately utilizing two DeFi protocols because you're using Optimus as the kind of the gateway, and then Balance as the kind of the endpoint. But nonetheless, it was more, I was more concerned with the launch of Balance and Ohm because they're much more complex and they're their own kind of thing, whereas this is more just kind of pointing resources towards that. So I felt a little bit better about this one, and also the strategies were fairly straightforward, nothing too complex that could get kind of scrambled up, I didn't think. So that's how I kind of approached it. The Fin token, which is like the governance token for Optimus, has been you're able to claim it at this point in time. So every day at UTC, at basically midnight UTC, so it's 4 o'clock my time here on the west coast of the USA, you can get your daily allotment. There's no liquidity yet for it on Balanced. I think there is a pool, but again, like hardly any liquidity. The team is working with Balanced to get I believe an incentivized pool up and launched in order to make sure there's a lot more liquidity there. We don't currently have a price on Fin, but we should. I think I think the goal was to have it a week after the launch of the protocol. So that would, in like 2 days from now or so. I don't know if that's exactly the timeline they still have. I think weekend was thrown around. So we should have, by the time we record next week, assuming all goes well, we should have a liquidity pool, and we'll have some knowledge as far as what exactly that token is worth, and how the demand and supply kind of plays itself out. I think if you remember, with Balanced, it started out pretty high, and it was like the $50 to $70 range, and then just kind of went down over time. Ohm was a little different. It started a little high, but then went way higher over the course of the next 2 or 3 days. There was a lot of demand for it because people wanted to use it for the liquidity pool, because the liquidity pool was giving a lot of pretty crazy ROI as far as yield is concerned. So it actually drove demand up for the first few days. And then obviously over time it's gone down and down and down. It did seem like it bottomed and might be climbing up a little bit now, as far as the Ohm token's concerned. So it'll be interesting to watch how Optimus plays out. But there'll obviously be a week's worth of accumulated tokens that people are either looking to sell or buy or whatever else it might be.
Yeah, look, it's good. I'm glad this is out. I will call it. I feel the strategies are too safe and not robust enough. But apart from that, great work. It's very simple to use. What Congrapher, we would in our Icon chat, obviously Balance has implemented this. You can list anything. So people have got to put a bit of Fin in there. But then the team's like, oh, but that's not the official supported LP that would get rewards, because obviously they're going to have some kind of incentive program. But you and me both found this thing quite funny, because it's like, oh, it's not the official pool. It's like, well, it's the official token. You can't then start another random pool and make it the official pool.
Right.
So
they were trying to encourage people to not launch a pool. Which, I mean, they have the right to encourage people not to do that, but at the end of the day, people also have the right, to decentralize. They're their tokens; they can do what they want with them.
exactly.
So, I mean, the biggest, I get where the team's coming from. When
totally,
you want your pool to launch with maximum liquidity. So that the fact that there's one out there that's kind of floating around with like basically non-existent liquidity, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just not what's necessarily optimal. But at the end of the day, you can't really stop people from it's decentralized. So it's once they figure it out, once it's incentivized, it'll be all good. But yeah, that was just kind of a funny dynamic that was playing out.
Yeah, and good point. Like at the end of the day, the biggest thing is if it's not official, it doesn't. It's not officially verified. But as a token, the second risk is, well, then if there's not a lot of liquidity, especially because a team hasn't added in anything, or it's just community, then you're going to lose. You're going to lose out either one way or the other. So. But overall, now, what is cool, and if Robbie does listen to the podcast, which I'll tag him in and get him to listen to, he actually put a comment saying if you need help with strategy. So this is one of the reasons why the team was very light, on strategies. They've really gone that why earn. You have a token, limited supply of the token, very low supply, and two, strategies are thought of by the community, and if picked and built out, there's rewards for the people who actually have taken the time to do it. And so Robbie made this comment, can I help if you need help with strategies? Do it, Robbie. If you have resources, get in there. The quicker we get more strategies. And right off the bat, like I can think of every LP we have currently in our ecosystem is a strategy in itself. Craft, balance, all the pairs that are incentivized, all would form a strategy simple strategy that allows compounding of LP. So basically, every block, your reward, it gets halved and put back into the LP. So you're compounding it every 2 seconds. Imagine you think the APYs are high now, that would double it in an instant. So there's a lot of potential there. So this is where it comes down to those builders and existing builders, if they have the expertise or have the ability to onboard the skill set we need. Now is the time. Now the infrastructure's out, and I think equality is around the corner, Icongrapher. Not strong-handing you in any information right now, but now's the time to really the builders to kind of dabble in these different dApps and start adding more value, because there's skin in the game for them. That's how the Fin tokenomics has been designed, to reward people who do work like that. Cool.
So kind of a big week for Craft, I would say. I guess one of the things to point out, I guess probably the most notable from a fundamental standpoint, it has been listed on dApps, so DAPP.com, their top 10 NFT marketplaces. They currently come in at least on the screenshot, they were at number 9. And so, obviously OpenSea is number 1. I imagine the new this is before LooksRare launched, I think. So I think LooksRare flipped OpenSea already. So nonetheless, it's nice. It's some nice, the fact that we're ranked among these top other marketplaces is notable in itself, but obviously gives Craft a little bit of extra eyeballs on it as well. So that's certainly nice to see. Also, they've launched the final phase of testing for CFT CFT staking. So the Craft token staking it. This is something we've been aware of. Basically, once the token launched, that this would be a kind of a feature of it, kind of a use case of it. Basically, a way to share protocol fees that the protocol collects among the stakers. This has caused so I think that as soon as this got announced, the price of CFT it spiked pretty dramatically. I think from like well under a cent to like 2 or 3 cents. kind of hung around a little bit, and then the last couple of days it's just been going wild. I haven't, I checked it a little while ago on Balanced, but let's see if I can pull it up and see what's at now. So a couple hours ago, yeah, it's about the same. So it's about translated to dollars, it's about a little bit around 7 cents right now. So obviously a pretty meteoric rise in the last few days. Market cap's now 2.8 million. So certainly CFT holders are feeling pretty good right now. Also, it's on CoinMarketCap as well. So if you want to be able to easily check the price, if you're on, CoinMarketCap's a pretty easy place to find that. Obviously, also gives exposure to the CoinMarketCap general set of eyeballs. It's one of the most visited financial websites in the world, so that's certainly nice to see. So just kind of a confluence of events that's been nice for Craft, the kind of the protocol, the platform, but also the actual token as well. So obviously very bullish in terms of what the staking might be able to provide, as far as and there's just general been kind of an uptick in attention on NFTs. Over the weekend, the NFT market kind of did really well, even though crypto as a whole was kind of crashing. So that was kind of unique. Even on Icon, like Gangstabet really took off. I think we talked about it last week, how it had a good week. It's cooled a little bit since then. But the floor price is still fairly high, especially relative to where it was 3 or 4 weeks ago. And obviously with the, there's a lot of attention on, that Looks token and the Looks Rare platform, which launched, and how it's competing against OpenSea. So there's just been, a lot of NFT news in the kind of in crypto world, a lot of news floating around, and then also specifically platform news. So I think that also helped kind of put people's focus on Craft. So just a lot of good things happening this week. I think a good number of people, I think if you bought an NFT on Icon, you've probably bought it on Craft for the most part. Obviously, there's a lot of collections that have been launching, and that's kind of the default place to go to. So certainly all good news for that team and all the people who are holding CFT.
Yeah, look, I think it's interesting with Looks that you mentioned that, because and probably it's also creating a lot of eyes for Craft as well, because until then the top dog was OpenSea, right? But there was no token around OpenSea, mainly because it was VC held, NFT store. So they were always a central party was always getting a portion of the profit. So Looks has come onto the scene and kind of done a Craft model. They've retro dropped by holders rather than going to that central VC or whatever OpenSea is, it actually goes to the token holders. So naturally, free airdrop if you've done certain trading volumes on OpenSea. Well, then now let's list it on OpenSea, because there's more reasons by holding the token you can actually earn from what the protocol generates. And then naturally, Craft has capitalized on this. Well, actually, we've been like this the whole time, and we're cheap and don't have to worry about gas and etc. etc. So, but with all good news comes a little bit of bad news in terms of, obviously, with a lot of the traffic. I've noticed Craft has been struggling to stay up at different times. So let's hope they're making changes. That's the sort of stuff we don't want to happen, especially when eyes are coming on. So let's hope they're fixing this. I know there's been a few outages, but overall, look, I mean, it's a shame it's happening, but I guess it's happening for the right reasons, even though it's not a good thing that's happening, if that makes sense. Remember, in 2017, where crypto went crazy and then all the exchanges just started crashing. They couldn't take on new users, and it's like, oh, this is what we wanted. And the same thing happened this cycle. If I remember at the start, it's like when things started to heat up, Coinbase started going down, and you're like, but you've had 3 years. What have you all been doing in the background? So let's hope
they got all that IPO money too, and they still couldn't scale it. But it does seem like it's gotten. I haven't heard about that happening since I think about within the last year or so. So at least even during the other peaks, they seem to have resolved it. But anyway.
But that's just it, right? It happened, and after that, then they fixed it, and it hasn't happened again. So let's hope with Craft, this is what comes out of it, and now we don't have these situations occur again. But yeah, really, really loving Craft's success story. In general, as he's called out, Iconographer, NFTs have been like Gangstabet. I've seen a lot of collections now in the craft space take off, and they've gone from 510 ICX to holding their floor price of 150. So, yeah, it's good to see.
Well, there's a tweet here. Gangstabet put out a tweet saying they've crossed the secondary market of trading has crossed 1 million ICX in trading volume. So, to quote them, they said, "We have come a long way from the first trade on the 10th of October at a 95 ICX sold price." So, yeah, I think, if you were to, at the time, 95 maybe felt a little expensive, but now it's a total, if Gangstabet would have popped up on the marketplace for 95 right now, it would probably get bought in about half a second. So certainly, that's a good way to quantitate how well, Gangstabet has done as far as the secondary market's concerned.
Yep, agree. It's great. I had that quote up as well. And then obviously, since we're talking Gangstabet, this cool little thing. I don't know how I feel about this one, Iconographer. Like the Gangstabet stats is cool, but I don't know how I feel that the whale wallets are being openly showcased. I don't know. Like when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, this is cool," but then I'm like,
Are you one of them?
No. I wish. But
yeah.
I guess, it's only the wallet. Apart from that, you can't see, and you see the Gangstabets in that wallet. But yeah, no.
I mean, I think you could probably, if someone could probably, it's all public anyway. So I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
they
true.
obviously organize things a little bit. I was looking for something like this. I do always like these. They sometimes, when a big sale gets made and like on Apes or something like that, it's nice to, people always retweet it, and so it's a good way to like get a good pulse on, right now you can go check each and every day what exactly what exactly the market's doing and things like that, which is kind of tedious. So now you can, like, if you just want to go to that feed or whatever, you can get a much better sense of what's, and they do a good job of presenting all the information as well.
And this is just it. I've literally clicked on the number one whale, and I didn't realize it shows it through the Gangstabet website, his address, and now it's loading up his seemingly infinite supply of Gangstabet.
His gang. Yeah.
Lucky bastard. Yeah, okay. Is he even taking the time to name a couple? Anyway, see, I feel like I'm being too nosy right now. I better step back. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool. It's great to see. It's cool that I've seen. I don't know if we covered this last time, but I loved seeing a few tweets. I love the whole narrative of passive income that people started building out with Gangstabet. I just love that. And the second part that was awesome was great to see people actually coming out and saying, "Hey, this is the first NFT I've bought that has made me money. I can't believe it." And not from a passive income kind of way, just gone up in value. And the comments have been like, "I can't believe that happened on Icon." I think it's cool. Personally, I am one of those people. I've bought NFTs across different ecosystems, including on Luna. I got sucked into the hype of Luna Bulls and this and that. And you know what I realized? They just start pumping them out unless something unique and good is done that isn't just rarity. In my personal view, they just tend to kind of start going downwards. But Gangstabet has buckled that trend, done something a bit different. Love it.
And I guess another little tidbit to point out, some nice little feel good story. There's an icon or ICX, iconist named Twitter handle is Kondoka. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. A little while back, this is probably a few months ago, they meant to send ICX to Binance, but they accidentally sent SICX, which is obviously not supported, at least explicitly on Binance. It sounds like it was not a small amount relative to what this person's holding was, and so obviously very frustrating for them. I think they'd been reaching out to Binance for God knows how long, saying, "Look, it's somewhere around there. Can you just send it back?" I kind of followed this story, just kind of kept popping up. Basically, Binance kind of gave some, general low level support, just kind of said, "Hey, we can't really do anything." It seems like the Icon community and maybe even the foundation itself bugged them enough basically harassed Binance enough in a good way to eventually resolve the issue. So he let everyone know a few days ago that his ICX or SICX has been refunded. So he's very happy. And so I just want to give props to all the community members who stepped up and helped him out with that.
Yeah, look, love it. I've been seeing, I'd messaged him as well, like trying in the background to help, and everyone was. So this was fantastic. It was just good to see that he got it back. And you know what? I think it was Brian. Straight away, he's like, "Oh, well, he put out a tweet. If they manage to do this, that means they have the infrastructure set up." It's like, okay, here we go. let the speculation start. But that's nothing. We don't know that. That is just actual fact. The fact that they could do it, they have some infrastructure. Does that mean things are going to get listed? I don't know, and I'm going to say no because
it's just as simple as they hold Icon, so they have an Icon wallet of some sort, and within that wallet was the SICX. So it just took probably took a special level of clearance or something like that to get into that wallet and send it back. So that was probably what the hard part was. But ultimately, it's not like it vanished off the blockchain or anything like that. It was still, it just went from one wallet to another wallet. It's just that other wallet was, not as easily accessible as, typically would be the case.
Yeah, agree. So a couple of other things. I think we've covered most of the stuff, Iconographer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think. Oh, not this. What was it? There were a couple of things that there's been a few sold out sales. This Mintbox art I noticed that apparently sold out on day one when we're talking NFTs. Pretty cool to see. I know, sorry, there was one thing we missed. I wanted to quickly feel good. No, I'm just scrolling through all my tabs. It's great to see Min get on the craft. Well, he's always been on the craft bandwagon, so good to see him tweeting about it as well. But no, I think that's good. We've covered all the news. There is, look, I think what we're not probably addressing a little bit off is, BTP. We're now 2 months later. I know the community is getting anxious around, and we need a bit of an update. So hopefully something comes through very soon. Because look, I've always been off this view. You can put the most detail and descriptive and awesome written stuff out there that really helps understand, but they'll get to a point where all that becomes irrelevant. And if there's not information coming out about the flagship product that is meant to be out already or close to release, and obviously price and stuff is a driving factor, but it compounds and everything becomes irrelevant. Where is it? What's going on? Why is there radio silence? So let's hope we see a bit more information trickle out around that. I know it's very close. You can see every day if you look in test nets and different apps and GitHub and stuff like that, things are getting updated. So things are happening. It'll be good if it comes out in the open to the community. That's just my 2 cents around BTP. I don't know if you share any views around that.
No, I pretty much agree with you, Sid.
Yeah, good. Okay. Look, that's it. That's it for us. I did find this news bit. So one thing we didn't cover. I'm interested to see what this Spartan Node is building, this Heroes of their game that they've got coming out. It's coming on Icon, so a play-to-earn game. This will be interesting to complement one other play-to-earn game we have. So let's see what they come through with over here. But apart from that, I think we've covered everything. As usual, not financial advice. Do your own research, especially when we're talking markets, which if I bring back to the screen seems to be going half well at the moment. But don't take our advice. Do your own research. A couple of guys just looking at charts, thinking we know stuff and sharing our views. So, and everything else, if you're investing, buying tokens, Fin, anything like that, do your own research. as always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the new channel. They have been climbing, so thank you, everyone. Claps, any publication around Icon, get those claps in. Subscribe to our channel, and until next time, thank you for listening, and chat soon, everyone. Take care.
See ya.